Hey, what's good? I'm gonna be finishing the story of the time I got chased by kidnappers, but specifically in this video, I'm gonna be telling you the part where I hunted down the kidnappers. I was not gonna go outside. So back to where I left off. In the middle of planning, Anthony had brought up a woman who tried to take over the bar. He said that she was really good at fighting, had immaculate aim, and a small army. Anthony said she offered him the chance to join her army, but said no because he didn't want to risk anything at the time. But she ended up losing because the boss' power was too strong, and he obliterated her whole team. Due to her plan being compromised, she had to leave. After that, she was never brought up or talked about ever again, but because they were really close to each other before the incident, he had an idea of where she could be. He suggested that we should include her in our get back plan, and I agreed, and we quickly got moving. In a flash, Anthony drove us to the mysterious place. I wondered how someone could live in those conditions until Anthony started honking his horn repeatedly. Now I was a little concerned for my life. He kept going until one of the garages opened, and woman came out the garage, and she was about to get mad and black out on us until she saw Anthony. She was shocked to see him, but got right back to being angry and told us to leave. Anthony called her name Shane and asked her to help us take over the boss. She got even more mad and questioned why Anthony all of a sudden wanted to do so when he had the chance to help back in the day. He apologized and asked her to give him one more chance. He proposed a deal that if she helps us defeat the boss, that she could take over the organization. Shane was beginning to agree, but she still had some doubts blocking her from accepting. She told us about the time that she tried to take over the boss with her army, but horribly failed, and she didn't want to risk it again fighting with weak people. That's when I spoke up and told her that I'm more than capable of handling the boss because of my training with the senseis up north and experience with fighting in the past. I was actually looking forward to it. The boss was hyped up as an immortal, so I must admit if I fight him and beat him, my skills would be on par with an immortal. After letting her know of my impressive credentials, she still didn't trust in my abilities. The nerve of her! But she told us about an errand she needed to run, and if we help her with the errand and meet her expectations, that she would accept our offer. Although Anthony and I were confused, we agreed, and Shane took the driver's seat and drove us to the spot. When we got over there, the place looked similar to her crib, but instead of multiple garages, there was just one big garage. She said that there was a group of gang members who were talking shit about her on Facebook, so she wanted to teach them a lesson. It was at that moment where I knew that she was the perfect person for this takeover. She said that if we were who we said we were, then we would have no problem. I said I bet, and as she walked over to the garage, I expected her to knock on the door and wait for someone to answer, but she just straight up walked over to the garage door and kicked down the whole thing. Then we saw a whole bunch of criminals in a group. They looked at us, we looked at them, and then we started getting it on. I mean, we were going crazy. I was in there dodging, punching, dodging, jumping, dodging, kicking. When I looked over at Shane, she was going absolutely mad. She was throwing guys around like bowling balls. Although Anthony had been recording, I watched the footage of the fight later and noticed very little shaking. After we beat up the criminals and Shane robbed the place, we returned to the car and Shane improved on my skills. She accepted our offer to take over the boss, and we went back to the drawing board. Since Shane knew the layout of the building and the boss' weaknesses, we had to make changes to the plan, or else she wouldn't be on board. She didn't want to risk the same thing happening twice. Instead of taking on everyone and engaging in an all-out battle, Shane planned for us to sneak inside, place explosives all over the weakest parts, and then sneak out and then blow up the whole lair. I asked her how she was going to take over the organization if there wasn't one in the first place, and Shane said that she would force the survivors to build her a new lair, but if we saw the boss alive, then we would just jump him and finish the job. At first I questioned whether letting her onto her plan would be a good idea, but then I remembered that I had training with one of the best hood benders and even utilized those skills in dire situations. I instantly felt motivated and we quickly got moving. When we got to the lair, Shane handed me a map with several bars marked with X's showing the weakest parts. As expected, we had professional stealth. I snuck around with ease. I was placing all the explosives down like it was nothing. As I was about to leave, after placing the last explosive, I heard Anthony scream. I turned around and saw the boss standing there. He said he was aware of what we were doing and let us continue so that we couldn't escape from his hand. When I heard that, I knew it was time. I ran at him with full force and punched him in his chest, but he looked unfazed. I backed off and tried punching him again, but he dodged out the way, punched me in my gut and sent me flying. That shit hurt. Now I knew I was in trouble. I got up, ran at him again, but this time I tried kicking him, but he dodged it, grabbed my leg and sent me flying once again. As I'm laying on the ground trying to recover, he charged at me and tried to stomp on me. I managed to dodge it, but I wasn't quick enough to avoid his next punch, and he sent me flying again. While I was still struggling to get up, the boss grabbed me, and I tried punching him and kicking him, but nothing seemed to work. But when I thought it was all over, I saw Anthony running at him with a frying pan, and then he hit him, but it had no effect. So the boss pimp slapped him out the way. Then Shane crashed through the doors with a car and ran the boss into the wall where the explosives were placed. She yelled at us to hurry up and get in the car. As I was running to the car, the boss regained consciousness and started pushing the car away. Despite Shane's attempt to drive forward, the boss' strength was just too much. With the one last move I had in my arsenal, I ran towards him, jumped over the car, and hit him with my ultimate move, Yaga. I managed to knock him out, and we all got into the car. But then Anthony accidentally dropped the button and stepped on it, causing the dynamite to explode. Shane quickly drove through the window just as the building exploded. We landed safely on the ground and drove back to Shane's garage. When we got back to Shane's garage, the sun was coming up and I was exhausted. I thanked Shane for her help and congratulated Anthony for escaping out of the boss organization. But at that moment, I remembered that Anthony was broke and asked him what he was gonna do. Anthony told me not to worry about a thing and said that he's gonna start Ubering since he knows how to drive now. Shane told us not to worry about the mess and that she will handle the organization. That she hopped on a motorcycle and dipped out, and he drove me back to my college. I dapped up Anthony and he thanked me for everything I did. And I told him that it was all good. Just make sure he never let another grown man just boss him around like that again. He agreed and I went back to my college. After some time, I started seeing Anthony more and more in class. But over time, I felt this defeated feeling within me. Although we technically defeated the boss, I still couldn't stop thinking about how I didn't win and I needed to get bailed out. So let's just say in the near future, y'all will see a follow-up video on that. You know, a wise man once said to never bring a knife to a gunfight. But there's one thing I want to add to that quote. Become strong enough so that you can bring a katana to the gunfight and slay an enemy in a blink of an eye. Yes. And with this easy to remember message I will share with y'all, not only will y'all be able to slay demons, y'all will be elevated to a whole nother level that you at this moment could not comprehend. The moral of the story is, in order to win a gunfight with a knife, you must go into your inventory and pull out a Glock 59. When you get into the heat of the battle, that's when you truly understand the value of life. I fought for your honor.